Welcome to your deep dive. Today we're diving deep, deep into something that's super important for, well, like everything we do in life, right? Effective communication. We've
Absolutely.
got this script here, and it looks like it's from some kind of seminar, maybe a workshop, something like that, all about teaching people how to communicate better.
Uh-huh.
So let's break this down, right? Let's unpack it, see what kind of wisdom this communication guru is trying to give us.
Okay, sounds good.
What jumps out at you first from this material?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me is how the script emphasizes just how much miscommunication can cost. Like it really gets straight to the point.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's this one scene, right, where this manager is giving instructions to an employee, pretty simple instructions.
Okay.
I need this report by Friday, make sure it's detailed.
Yeah, seems pretty straightforward. Like, what's the problem there?
Well, think about it, right? Like how much is open to interpretation in that one word, detailed?
I see what you mean.
Like, does detailed mean every single data point needs to be there?
Right.
Does it mean a certain level analysis is required?
Yeah, I get it.
It's like setting you up for problems, you know?
Yeah.
And that's exactly where the employee asking a clarifying question is so important.
Right.
They ask, could you clarify what specific details you need in the report? See, right away getting us thinking about active listening.
So the script's like right out of the gate, setting us up for that, huh? Active listening.
Exactly. It's not just about hearing the words, you know?
Right.
It's about like really engaging with what's being said to make sure you really understand.
Gotcha.
And it even talks about the nonverbal cues too, you know?
Oh, right.
Like nodding your head, making eye contact.
Yeah.
All those subtle little signals to show that you're not just there, but you're actually like taking in the information.
I get that, but do you ever feel like people kind of overthink body language? I mean, like reading too much into a nod or something?
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to be analyzing every little head tilt or whatever, you know?
Right.
But I think the key takeaway here is just being more aware of what we're communicating with our own body language, and also being aware of what we're picking up from other people.
Makes sense.
Think about it. Like, when was the last time you really felt heard and understood in a conversation? Did the other person's body language like play a part in that feeling?
You know what? Now that you mention it, yeah, I think it did. It's like almost subconscious, right?
Exactly.
Like it's confirming they're with you.
Yeah. And then, think about the opposite. Think about a time when you felt completely dismissed or like ignored.
Ugh. Yeah, I've been there.
Chances are their body language was part of that too.
I bet you're right.
So yeah, being mindful of our own nonverbals and being aware of how we interpret other people's, but not getting too hung up on it.
Okay, I like that. Finding that balance.
Exactly, finding that balance. Now, the script goes on to connect this whole active listening thing with the importance of being clear and concise when you communicate.
Oh, okay.
And there's this great example in the presentation scene where the speaker just comes right out and lays out their goal nice and clear.
All right.
Our goal this quarter is to increase sales by 15% through targeted digital marketing strategies.
Straight to the point. I like.
Right. Like no messing around, especially in a presentation that's so important to keep people engaged.
Totally.
It's about respecting their time,
Right.
and respecting their mental bandwidth, too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because when you're clear and concise, you're reducing the risk of information overload. And let's be honest, we've all been there.
Oh my gosh, haven't we all sat through those presentations where you just zone out after a while?
Exactly. Nobody wants that. This script is all about making sure your message actually lands,
Makes sense. So far, we've got active listening, nonverbals, and being clear and concise. It's like they're all connected, kind of like different sides of the same, I don't know, like a gem or something.
That's a great analogy, yeah. And speaking of connections, this script doesn't stop at just like the mechanics of communication.
Okay.
It goes deeper. It gets into the whole realm of empathy.
Oh, interesting.
There's this scene where a manager notices an employee looking stressed out and says, "Hey, I notice you seem a bit overwhelmed. Do you need any support with your tasks?"
That's nice.
Right.
Just acknowledging how they're feeling.
Exactly. And that can go a long way, even if they don't end up needing any help.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's about connecting on a human level, not just delegating tasks,
For sure.
And this is where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
The script kind of challenges this traditional idea of empathy, like as just being nice,
Uh-huh.
It gets into the neuroscience of it.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it explains how empathy actually impacts our brain chemistry.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, it fosters trust and connection.
There's science behind this.
Oh, yeah. Research shows that when we feel understood and empathized with, our brains release oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
Oh, wow.
It creates that sense of trust and connection, which can be so powerful in any communication, whether it's personal or professional.
So empathy isn't just some fluffy feel-good thing. It's like backed by real
It
science.
is.
That is so fascinating.
And the script goes on to explain how understanding this can actually make us more persuasive communicators.
Hold on, hold on. How does empathy make you more persuasive? Isn't persuasion about getting someone to do what you want them to do? Those seem kind of like at odds.
Right, that's a common misconception, yeah.
Okay,
The script argues that real persuasion, like true persuasion, isn't about manipulation.
right.
It's about creating a win-win situation. So when you genuinely understand the other person's needs and their perspective, you can tailor your message in a way that resonates with them.
Okay,
It's not about tricking them into agreeing with you.
gotcha.
It's about finding that common ground
Yeah, yeah.
and building a solution together.
So less about winning an argument and more about creating like a shared understanding.
Exactly. And it even gives you some practical techniques for developing empathy.
Oh, cool.
Like active listening is obviously huge, but it also suggests things like perspective taking exercises where you try to actually see the situation from the other person's point of view.
That makes a lot of sense. Putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. And that leads us to another crucial element highlighted in the script, which is adaptability.
Okay. Adaptability. I know the script has that scene where a speaker explains social media in totally different ways depending on if they're talking to teenagers or a room full of professionals.
Exactly. That's a perfect example of adaptability in action. It's not about like being fake or anything.
Right, right.
It's about recognizing that different people have different communication styles, different levels of understanding, and different needs.
So like meeting people where they are.
Exactly, exactly. Meeting people where they are, literally and figuratively. It's about tailoring your message to make the biggest impact and for the best understanding.
You know, it's interesting. It feels like adaptability and empathy are like super connected. To really adapt your communication, you have to empathize with your audience, right?
That's such a good observation. They really do go hand in hand. I mean, without empathy, your attempts at adapting are going to feel fake or even manipulative.
This is way deeper than I was expecting. I feel like I'm seeing communication in a whole new light.
That's the beauty of a deep dive. You start peeling back the layers and uncovering those nuances that we usually miss.
I am definitely hooked. So what else does this script have in store for us?
So we've been talking about how important empathy and adaptability are when you're trying to like craft a message that really resonates.
Right, right.
But what happens when the message you need to get across is, well, criticism?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
Nobody likes giving or receiving criticism, right?
not really,
No,
no.
not fun.
But this script, it faces that head on. It tackles the topic of feedback, which, let's be honest, most people dread.
Oh, yeah.
But it stresses how important it is to give constructive feedback. Feedback that focuses on specific things that could be improved, but still recognizes the good work that's been done.
I'm thinking of that scene from the script where a supervisor is talking to a team member and says, "You did a great job on the report, but next time, try structuring the sections a bit more clearly, for better readability."
Yeah, exactly. It's direct, but not harsh.
Right,
It's about finding that balance, between being honest and still being encouraging.
right.
Think about a time when you got feedback that made you feel defensive or like you just wanted to shut down.
Oh, yeah.
What was it about how they said it or what they said that triggered that reaction?
Oh, man. I had this one boss who was just notorious for like dumping this list of everything I was supposedly doing wrong.
Uh-huh.
No praise, no suggestions for what to do better, just negativity. It was awful.
Yeah, it's like some people see feedback as a weapon, not a tool.
Right.
But this script, thankfully, takes a completely different approach. It gets into the psychology of how we process feedback,
Okay.
explaining how it can either be perceived as a threat or as a chance to grow.
So how do we make sure our feedback is seen as like helpful guidance instead of a personal attack?
That's where everything we've talked about comes in.
Right.
Active listening is key to make sure you actually understand the other person's perspective before you give any feedback.
Uh-huh.
Being clear and concise is also super important so the feedback is easy to understand and act on.
Right.
And of course, empathy is essential to create a safe space where the person receiving the feedback feels respected and supported.
So it's not just what we say, but how we say it.
Absolutely. The context and the delivery are just as important as the content itself.
Makes sense.
And the script gives you some tips for giving feedback effectively, like focusing on specific behaviors instead of making broad generalizations.
Okay.
So instead of saying you need to be more organized, you could say, I noticed the files for this project were kind of scattered across different folders. Maybe it would be helpful to create a central folder structure for future projects.
Right, that's way more helpful. It gives them concrete things they can do to get better without making it feel personal.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about improving the process, not criticizing the person.
What about receiving feedback? Any tips for how to handle it in a constructive way, even when it's not easy to hear?
Yeah, it's definitely not always easy, especially when it feels like your work is being criticized.
Right.
But the script encourages us to see feedback as a gift, like a chance to learn and grow,
Yeah, that's easier said than done
for
sometimes.
sure.
I know I've definitely been guilty of getting defensive when I feel like I'm being judged unfairly.
We all have, but the script suggests, take a deep breath, try to detach yourself from that initial emotional reaction, and really focus on what the feedback is saying.
Okay.
Ask clarifying questions to make sure you understand where they're coming from. And remember, you don't have to agree with everything they say, but you can still acknowledge their point of view and thank them for sharing their thoughts.
It seems like a recurring theme in this script is that communication is a two-way street. It's not just about getting your own ideas across.
Exactly.
It's about actively engaging with the other person, listening to understand their perspective, and then adapting your approach to build a real connection.
You got it. And that leads us to one of the most insightful points in the whole script.
Oh,
Effective communication isn't just about exchanging information.
okay.
It's about building relationships, fostering understanding, and inspiring action. It's about creating positive change in the world, one conversation at a time.
Wow, that's really powerful.
It is, right?
It makes you realize that communication is so much bigger than just words.
Yeah.
It's about connections and empathy and the potential to make a real difference.
Exactly. And this script, while it's super practical, it never loses sight of that bigger picture.
Right.
It reminds us that communication can be a force for good, like a tool we can use to create a more harmonious and productive world.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Not every conversation is going to be this deep and meaningful, right?
Of course not.
Sometimes you just need to order a coffee or ask for directions.
Exactly, yeah. We don't need to overthink every little interaction, but I think the principles in this script, they can be applied to even the most basic exchanges.
That's interesting.
Like even a simple please and thank you can go a long way in making a better experience for everyone involved. And who knows, maybe that barista will make your day with a random act of kindness.
I like that. It's a good reminder that even the smallest acts of communication can have a ripple effect.
Exactly.
So what's the last point you wanted to bring up from the script?
Well, the script emphasizes that being a good communicator is an ongoing journey. It's not a destination. It's a skill that we have to keep working on and refining our whole lives.
So it's not like you reach some level of communication mastery and then you're done. You have to keep learning and growing.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the cool thing is that every interaction, every conversation, every presentation, every time you give or receive feedback, it's a chance to practice and improve. It's like a lifelong adventure.
I love that perspective.
Right.
It takes the pressure off of trying to be perfect, and lets us embrace the fact that communication can be messy and it's always changing.
Totally. And who knows, maybe by embracing that journey, we'll find new and even better ways to connect with each other.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to use when I'm communicating. How about you? What are your main takeaways? Okay, so we're back ready for the final part of our deep dive on effective communication. We've talked about so much already. Active listening, the whole nonverbal thing, being clear and concise, empathy, adaptability, and of course that tricky world of giving and receiving feedback.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. But with all that we've uncovered, I feel like there's still one more little gem hiding in this script.
Oh, I think you might be right.
All right, spill it. What's the treasure you found?
Well, this script gives us all this practical advice, but throughout it all, it keeps coming back to this one central theme.
Okay,
And it's a theme that really resonates with me.
I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
It's this idea that effective communication isn't just about mastering techniques or following rules. It's about cultivating a certain mindset.
Okay, a communication mindset. I like it. So what does that actually mean?
It starts with recognizing that everyone you interact with has value and dignity.
Right.
And it's about approaching every single conversation with this genuine desire to understand, to connect, to build bridges instead of walls.
Almost like a whole philosophy or a way of life, not just a set of communication skills.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what this script is subtly pushing us towards. this shift in perspective.
Yeah, I see that.
It's like, stop seeing communication as just this transactional thing, a way to get what you want, and start seeing it as a way to create positive change in yourself and in the world.
I assume you're about to say but.
Huh? You know me too well.
I do, I do.
But, and this is important, developing this communication mindset takes real effort and a lot of self-awareness.
Oh, for sure.
It's about constantly questioning your own assumptions, your biases, your communication habits, being willing to step outside your comfort zone and try new ways of connecting with people.
So it's not like there's this finish line you cross and you've mastered communication, you're done.
Nope, not at all. It's a journey, It's lifelong. It's about always refining your skills, becoming more aware, and deepening your capacity for empathy and connection.
Part of me wishes there was some simple formula, some set of rules I could just memorize. But communication just doesn't work like that, does it?
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would.
But that's what makes communication so amazing, right? It's dynamic, it's fluid, it's always changing. No two interactions are exactly alike.
True.
It's challenging, but that's what makes it so rewarding.
Thinking back to all those scenes and examples from the script, the ones that really stand out for me, they weren't always the ones with, like, the fanciest techniques or the perfect words.
Oh, interesting. Which ones were they?
The ones where you could really feel the human connection.
Yeah.
Like the manager who noticed their employee was stressed out, the supervisor who gave really specific and encouraging feedback, the speaker who tailored their message to connect with each audience. It was the empathy, the adaptability, the respect.
That's so true. And it just reinforces that effective communication, it's not about being perfect or having the perfect words.
Right.
It's about being authentic, listening deeply, and speaking from a place of genuine care and connection.
So well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big thought you want to leave with our listeners?
This script has reminded me that communication is a gift. It's a privilege and it's a responsibility. It's a gift because it lets us share our thoughts and feelings and experiences. It's a privilege because not everyone has that freedom to communicate openly and honestly. And it's a responsibility because our words are powerful. They can build up or tear down. They can inspire or discourage.
Wow. Beautifully said. And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you some new tools and insights to improve your own communication. Remember, effective communication is a journey, not a destination. So keep practicing, keep learning, and keep connecting. Until next time.